Welcome back. Thank you for staying with the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. The untimely death of promising young St. Lucian cricketer Chaz Sipal was put in the spotlight as part of proceedings for the launch of a road safety campaign. His grieving and very emotional mother delivered a poignant message to motorists, young people in particular, to drive carefully. Solange Alfred reports.
Motorists and pedestrians alike are advised to pay attention to the release of public service announcements by the Department of Transportation in collaboration with DramaCan. The launch of the initiative took place at the Government Information Studios, where mother of road accident victim Chaz Sipal, who lost his life in the early morning of August 31st, 2019, along the stretch of road between Dame Paulette Louise Primary School and the Timon Gap. Samina Sipal says the pain of the untimely death of her son is something she continues to grapple with.
Getting that call from the police telling me that my son had passed was easily the most difficult day of my life. Today is 79 days later, and every day it still hurts. I still hurt. His brother still hurts so much. His father still confused. I want the young people to understand that it's okay to drive. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to live. It's okay to enjoy yourselves. But when you are careless and when you just do stuff, because I will never know what happened that fateful morning, but what I know is I'm left with this empty spot.
Sipal says the pain of losing her son has not waned. She expresses passionately to motorists the importance of using the roadways with caution.
I know that I miss Chaz. I know that I miss him so much. I think about him every single day. And I'm not alone. I know so many parents, so many of us who have lost our children over the last maybe few months, even years. Yesterday was a particularly difficult day since there was an international remembrance. It was fresh. Every day it just hits you again. Young people, have fun, but please remember, when you go, we are left behind and we hurt. And it really, really hurts to not have my 18-year-old son who had so much potential.
The grieving mother says the memory of her son will live on forever.
I don't even know how much longer this is going to last. I don't think I will ever forget him. But please, I want you to be careful. I want you to think about all the hurt and all the pain that is left behind, and the emptiness, and the fact that I will never get to touch you again physically. I will never get to share anything with you again. You'll never ask me, "Mommy, may I have some money, please? Mommy, can you convince Daddy to do something for me?" So the take-home message is, please be careful. You could drive, you don't have to speed. You could take your time and get there in the allotted time. If you're late, at least you're alive.
According to Chief Transport Officer in the Department of Transport, Skeeter Gibbs, reducing road fatalities remain one of the biggest challenges for the department. She says the road safety initiatives should help in reducing the number of fatalities on road, which have almost doubled in the last decade. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
A mother of 6 who lost everything in an ancillary house fire is on the receiving end of some much-needed assistance from the government of St. Lucia as well as the people of her constituency. Ursula Hippolyte said she is beyond grateful for the kind gesture, where both Prime Minister Alan Chasney and Ancillary MP Dominic Fede were present.
Ursula Hippolyte, the mother of 6, who lost all her belongings in a house fire, was left overwhelmed with emotions on Monday morning as she was presented with a check, as well as hampers from the government of St. Lucia and members of her community. Tragedy struck on the 7th of November in the community of Anse-Lorraine, leaving Hippolyte and her family homeless and in need of immediate aid. MP for Anse-Lorraine Dominic Fede said he heard of the incident whilst off island and was taken aback as he shared a close relationship with Hippolyte. He said he wasted no time in mobilizing efforts to provide her with the help that she needed.
Again, I offer my sympathies to you and to your children, and we stand with the Village Council of Anse-Lorraine to build this house that you've had bigger, better, and stronger. Okay, so that is our promise, and this is our first contribution. Thank you so much.
Directly after Fede's presentation, an emotional Hippolyte expressed her gratitude.
The Almighty, I thank Lord. Life of breath. Thank you, Lord. And on behalf of my family and friends, I thank all of you. Thank you.
Also present was Prime Minister Alan Chasney, who said it's always difficult when such tragedies occur. However, he went on to assure St. Lucians that his government will be there to lend a helping hand when they do occur.
Unfortunately, it's not something I can say to you that we can eliminate and it will never happen again. But I want to assure all St. Lucians that should they find themselves in this particular situation, like many have, whether it be for fires or whether it be for dire healthcare needs. And I know last year we contributed over $5.5 million in supporting families with healthcare needs. That we're here to help you.
The PM said his government recognizes that a better system needs to be implemented to allow them to help more people. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
Over 2 years after it was revealed that the island's Distress Support Fund, which was set up to help locals who had fallen down on their luck due to natural disasters and house fires, was discontinued by the Alan Chasney administration, Tourism Minister Dominic Fede reveals that it was perhaps a change of name, but the fund was never discontinued. The matter was thrust into the headlines once again after a fire that destroyed 7 houses in the Rosehill community on New Year's Day. In response to this, back in January, Senior Communications Officer in the Office of the Prime Minister, Nicole MacDonald, confirmed that the fund was no longer in existence. However, she made assurances that help for those who needed it was still available on demand.
Yes, the distress fund has been discontinued. However, the government of St. Lucia has continued to deal with emergency situations and situations such as this on a case-by-case basis. So this responsibility now lies with social services that will assess the situation, basically submit to the government what might be the needs and where government can assist, and then cabinet would decide on the assistance provided to those families. So not having the distress fund by no means creates a situation where St. Lucians would not be able to get emergency assistance.
11 months later, Fede says as far as he knows, the fund, or at least what it stood for, was still very much active.
That issue, I don't think that we've removed the distress fund. I think there have been some reallocation, and maybe it was called something else in the budget, but certainly I think the Prime Minister spoke here today in terms of the exponential increases we've had in terms of how much we're spending on health, and so there's a more holistic approach to developing our citizens, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in fire relief efforts. So there might have been the removal of a line item called the distress fund, but certainly there's been a lot more money put into meeting and relieving people when there are times of needs and in crisis situations, whether it's a hurricane, a fire, or healthcare that's required.
At the time of the fund's elimination, former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony expressed dismay over the decision, saying All parliamentarians on both sides of the political divide had access to this fund. So too did private citizens. The total allocation was quite modest, less than $500,000 annually. The allocation was available solely for fire victims. The key consideration was poverty and inability to secure insurance coverage. A call to righteousness, calling our nation to God. That was the banner under which churches came out en masse to protest societal issues and the challenge to St. Vincent and the Grenadines' buggery laws. 10 churches from the wider body called the Christian Coalition, which comprises 100 churches, announced their decision to join the proceedings which are examining legal challenges to the buggery laws filed by claimants Sean McLeish and Javin Johnson. The claimants are openly gay Vincentians living in the US and the UK respectively, who claim that their fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution are being violated by the anti-buggery laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
During the massive protest rally held last Thursday in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, lawyer and representative of the Christian Coalition, Mandela Peters, told the gathering that the move to change the country's buggery laws is an attack on Christians. She further noted that people contesting the laws often say that they are unconstitutional, draconian, archaic, and a relic of the colonial past, but she called on them to do their research.
When our criminal code was enacted in 1988, we would have been an independent nation since 1979. England would have repealed their buggery laws already in 1967. Yet the independent Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines chose to let buggery remain on our law books. I believe it is because they saw that this was a moral law, this was a righteous law, this is a health law. But now moves are being made to strike these laws down from our law books. Buggery is anal penetration, and God did not design the rectum for sexual intercourse. Even if you put the Bible aside, look at our bodies, look at our anatomy, look at our physiology. Nature itself tells you that the rectum was not designed for sexual intercourse.
Caribbean societies have traditionally been averse to same-sex relationships as reflected in the laws, but the entire world is shifting perspective, and same-sex marriage has become legal in many parts of the world. Some say it's just a matter of time before buggery laws are changed throughout the Caribbean. Here in St. Lucia, Archdeacon Christian Glasgow reaffirms the church's stance on the issue of buggery. He says it is immoral and wrong. However, he says he has a problem with the church protesting specific ills and not all immoral issues.
Because one of the points that I understand was made about why this law ought to remain on the law books there is that it is morally wrong. And I agree with that, but how many other things that are morally wrong that are not on our law books? And if you're going to take a holistic approach to this, then these things too must be considered and must be protested against. Adultery, fornication, and these other things that clearly are spoken against in Scripture. See, I just have a basic problem when persons want to hear from the church only when it pertains to something that they are particularly interested in, and not willing to pay attention to what the church is saying constantly on other matters.
Buggery is an offense under the Criminal Code of St. Lucia. Archdeacon Glasgow says he has no doubt that at some point St. Lucia will face similar challenges to its buggery law.
Prime Minister Alan Chastanet did not mince words when he addressed the St. Lucia National Trust's annual general meeting. He referenced what he described as a shameful meeting with investors interested in developing the Dolphin Park at Pigeon Island National Landmark.
We wrote to the trust. So these developers have come. Can you please meet with them and give us a report back as to what your thoughts are on this process? What pursued is really shameful. Because Because what pursued was not a letter back to the government responding to our request. What pursued was a smear campaign that was irresponsible, where investors were demeaned, insulted, and more importantly, a barrage of information coming out that there was no truth to it. Videos coming out of Pigeon Island being excavated, as if there was going to be a sea aquarium built on Pigeon Island.
He called out the trust for lack of consistency in terms of its stance on such issues.
So at the end of the day, if you're going to take some positions that we've taken, you have to ask for consistency. Where is the same level of passion and the advocacy about St. Lucians eating blackfish? Where is the advocacy and the consistency about St. Lucia's long-standing position with whales? Because you can't have a conversation with one without having a conversation with all. And the fact is, and this is the hurtful thing, is the National Trust has to appreciate that it has an opinion, it has a right, and it was developed in order to be able to have that opinion and to express that point. But ultimately, it must be shared and it must be considered among all of the other interests that we have as a country.
The Prime Minister also underscored the need for constructive and respectful dialogue between the government and the Trust. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. There's more news coming up after the break.